All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to this final masterclass before the release of my next book, Leaderboard to Leadership. I'm going to wait a few minutes or seconds, I should say. We're going to wait until this gets on to LinkedIn and YouTube, and we'll be sure we are ready to go for this. I was raised the middle of 7 children, and if we weren't on time for things, we didn't get seconds. We got left at home. So I think all of my siblings and I always show up on time. And it's just how we were raised. I'm sure some of you were raised the same way. I'm so excited today to be talking about things to demystify the transition from sales to sales leadership. This is a fun topic. It's going to be a prelude to what will be available in the Leaderboard to Leadership book that launches tomorrow. I can't believe it. There's a lot of excitement that happens with a book launch and a lot of final things moving in the background. So I think that I have just not succumbed. That's not the word I'm trying to use, but just surrendered to, you know what? I put in my best energy and effort to the book. We have done all of the work that's possible. And now I'm just surrendering and letting God and the universe do the rest, with the hope that it truly makes a difference for emerging sales leaders and sales leadership teams. Okay, so today, this is the second of these 2 masterclasses I've done in celebration to the book launch tomorrow. But we're going to talk about a few things as far as demystifying the sales leadership transition. We're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about what priorities should you set in your first 90 days as a new sales leader, and then what critical shifts should you make. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Whether you're joining live, whether you're joining on the replay, I think that the click you just made really says a lot about yourself. And it tells me a couple of things about you. It tells me that you care about being a leader. You're someone who is curious about what else you could be doing to set yourself and others up for success. You're probably short on time, like a lot of sales people and sales leaders are, and appreciate someone who just kind of cuts to the chase. Maybe you're someone who has the goal to become a sales leader in 2025, and you want to know what you can do now and in the final quarter of the year to really be successful. It's possible that you're maybe an experienced sales leader who wants to know what else you can be doing to help yourself and those around you. Maybe you're a learning and development or sales enablement leader, and you're like, you know what? I'm always on the lookout for what we can be doing better. And so I hope that today's masterclass, you might be able to take away 1 or 2 things that you can implement, and then maybe a reminder on some other concepts that you used to do and maybe have gotten away from it. So wherever you find yourself, I see you. I appreciate you clicking or watching this replay, and I'm rooting for you because you take time to elevate yourself. Sales leadership development is still a very undeveloped area. When Rise Up Consulting saw the gap between the development sales leaders wanted and what they were actually receiving, we went all in. Now we specialize in that first sales leadership leap from the sales leaderboard to leadership, but we also work with all different levels of leadership at organizations. In fact, I've spent the better half the past 2 years co-creating 3 different levels of leadership development. Some with sales development, but really it's leadership development in general for an organization that's about doubled in size over the last 2 years, and they have over 500 employees. But the reason we're so well known for frontline sales leadership development is because we figured out how to do it right. And I'm not going to bore you with all of the details on how much our clients have succeeded after implementing our programs. You can check that out on our website for yourself. Today is about you and what you can take away in our short time together to be elevating your game. The new role, new rules is the name of this masterclass. And it's actually the title of one of the chapters in the book, Leaderboard to Leadership, about how to earn and excel in your first sales leadership role. And it comes out tomorrow. I can't believe it comes out tomorrow. You can actually pre-order the Kindle version. And I have had a lot of text messages and messages from friends saying, you know what, Rebecca, I really like the paper copy. So the paperback book will be available tomorrow on Amazon at 8:00. You might want to be one of the first people to order that. We also have free resources on our website, not entirely what I'm going to go over with you today, but there's some free resources that you can get and download, and some options that are going to be on the website very soon as far as options for groups of sales leadership teams. So maybe you have a large organization and you want to get a bundle of books and some free, I shouldn't say free, included trainings and on-demand trainings that we have. And then what I'm really excited about, that'll be done in the next 24 hours, is a book club guide to that book. But anyway, in the new rules chapter of the book, I lay out a 13-week plan that all sales leaders can think about to be successful right away in their role. And since sales leaders tend to move around a little bit, you can use it as a guide for every sales leadership role you take at every organization you work with. Or if you're like me, I really only worked at 2 organizations and partnered with 2 organizations. I tend to stay around organizations a little longer. So if you're in that boat, you can use it as a template for the teams that you're continuing to build. But the reason we demystify the transition from sales to sales leadership is because virtually no one talks about it. 80% of sales leaders told us they got 0 training once being promoted into leadership. And if you found yourself in that lucky 20% that received guidance from your employer or a coach, you can think through what else you could be doing or continue to go all in with. And as I was creating the Leaderboard to Leadership program, there were many things that sales leaders told me they wish they would have done differently in their first 13 weeks. And so like feedback from sales leaders included holding more one-on-ones. They wish they would have known to do that as a new rule in their new role. Creating a strong vision. They didn't realize how important that would be as a new sales leader. Soliciting feedback from those around them, from 360 degrees around them, and setting expectations. And so the issue is that there really are no rules of engagement that are spelled out for every new sales leader. And so it doesn't work exactly the way that it did in sales. And so what we try to do is we try to repeat it though. We go, well, let me work really hard. Let me have a really good attitude. I'm going to grit my teeth for a few months and we're just going to barrel through the learning curve. But unfortunately, a lot of sales leaders don't survive it. The training I received as a new sales leader was to be a really good salesperson. I was given the advice that the best way to lead was to sell more. I didn't focus on helping my team through coaching or figuring out their strengths. I kept doing what I had always been doing and became a producing sales leader. And it was based on the hope that the team would simply watch what I did and would pick up a few things. And modeling is incredibly important for leaders, but modeling isn't the selling process. It's not the way to be a sales leader. And you should focus on other things as well in your first 90 days. So let's spend our time today talking about what that is. Some things to consider when you're moving from an individual to a leader. And again, we're going to discuss 2 main areas of that today to demystify this transition. The priorities you need to make in your first 90 days, we cover 3 of them. And then the critical shifts you should make. And we cover 3 of those as well. All right, so let's talk about this. The priorities you should have in your first 90 days are define expectations, define success, and build relationships. Let's start with defining success right away. And this might seem a little bit silly, But when was the last time someone defined success in the sales leadership role? Look around you to other examples, people you respect, and think through the definition of success. Because what's going to probably happen is you're going to find 100 different answers on what that is. High achieving salespeople who find themselves in a sales leadership role define success differently. One new leader that we worked with told us that a win in their first 90 days would be to break a company record. And I am all for setting very big and audacious goals, but your first 90 days are about achieving small goals, laying down the foundation and building momentum to sustain you. We don't want new sales leaders to lose right out of the gates because they weren't realistic about their goals. So there's a few questions I ask in the book, and I realize that if you're catching me live, I'll say them slowly, or you can go back and watch the replay. That's the great thing about video that exists on LinkedIn and YouTube. But a couple questions about how to get to this answer is, what is your definition of success as a sales leader in your first 90 days? I had a friend text me, "How many books do you want to sell, Rebecca? Like what does success look like?" And I went, I didn't clarify that. So I realized we have these gaps, right? So now I have a goal in my mind. I have a goal for the first month, and then I have a goal for the first year. But really get specific. What is your definition of success as a sales leader in your first 90 days? Once you've thought through that and reflected on that, you also want to ask your team, what does each team member and what does the collective team think a win is? What does success look like in their first 90 days with you as their leader? Does success look like they want you to push them? Do they want you to be empathetic to them? Do they want to build a relationship? We're going to talk about that. But what do they think success means? Then you also have to check with your direct manager if you have one. What does your manager consider success to look like in your first 90 days? Once you get all of those answers done, you want to check if they're aligned. You won't feel like you're winning if you achieve what you considered to be a win, but your manager expected something different. Okay, so that's the first thing to figure out in your first 90 days and really before you get there. The second thing is define expectations. Last week when I hosted another masterclass, I touched on expectations, and you can watch that replay later. But I discussed a few things like success principles to earn your first sales leadership promotion, how to manage your time and energy, and then review expectations. And I shared in that one about how to think through expectations in a couple different categories, what you expect with mindset, behaviors, skill sets, and results. And even before the first day, that would be really important to be figuring through those expectations. You cannot establish a trusting relationship, which is the third bullet point here in these top priorities in your first 90 days, but you can't establish that without establishing expectations. People want to know where they stand and what's expected of them. New sales leaders can really throw people for a loop and throw a wrench into the situation. And you won't cover all of the expectations on day one, but you can discuss some pretty important expectations and then build from there. Improper expectations cause more pain than necessary. How do you know everyone's on the same page? You talk through what's expected in the relationship and at work. So some examples of expectations that you could build from, if you're wondering, like, what are you talking about, Rebecca? An expectation that I have always done when I'm recruiting someone new is I say, I expect you to be on time and clear-minded for the meetings. And I will also, you can expect that from me, and I expect that from you. which is why I started this masterclass on time. It drives me insane when people don't respect the time of others. And so that's just a really important expectation, to be honest with each other when things are going well and when they're not going well. That's another great expectation. Being committed to continual learning. I think it's important when you're a new sales leader for the first time or in a new role to let them know that, listen, you don't have all the answers, but you're committed to continual development and you expect that same growth mindset out of the people you lead. Maybe you want to say like the expectation of professionalism and exceptionalism. You might want to address the values and the culture, another expectation that I've always found really works, and it's always been hard for me, is to be patient with my team sometimes. For people who are going from sales to sales leadership, high performers, we just operate at a different level and we need to be patient as others catch up. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, right? But there is a pace and you want to just say, I'm going to be patient, but I am setting the pace. I will be patient as you catch up, but I expect you to catch up, or I will catch up to you. Sometimes you're drinking from a fire hose when you're a new leader and you're like, I'm trying to catch up. Be patient with me as I learn this new sales leadership role. It goes around in all different directions there. So, but when you set expectations and simply have the conversation, it shows you care about them and the relationship. Which brings me to my last point here of these priorities, is to build the relationship. You may be leading a team where you were just a member. It's possible that someone else on the team also applied for the sales leadership seat that you now sit in. You could be someone who came from outside the organization that is now on that team. Wherever you find yourself, the best thing to do is to focus on getting to know your team and building the one-on-one relationships you have with each of them while strengthening the power of the team dynamic. The greatest influence over someone's success is their relationship with their direct manager. That's from Gallup. And that's going to be you, or it currently is you. And this isn't a let's get a drink at the bar together kind of relationship. This is one of deep significance for you and for them. How you begin that and set the tone for that whole relationship is really key. So some tips we have on how to build a solid relationship is just get to know them. What are their goals? What do they need around them to succeed? What are their motivations? We always say that a leader creates the circumstances for their team to win. So you need to know what they need in order to win. You'd also want to build up their confidence, make them feel good about themselves. I'm not talking about insincere compliments, right? Or giving everyone a ribbon when they don't deserve a ribbon or a gold medal, but I'm talking about building them up. When you see something, find a win. And then with the win, help them get a win as well. It's something they've never done before. You don't want to do it for them. That's kind of a trap that new sales leaders can get themselves into. They'll say, I want to prove that I earned this sales leadership role, and I'm going to show that I can close a lot of sales. I'm going to prove I'm really good for this role by doing my old one, which is kind of counterintuitive. But work alongside your team. And as you work with them, as you do a ride along, as you sit in on meetings with them, that builds a relationship. So those are some of the priorities you want to have as a new sales leader for the first time or as a repeat. Define success, define expectations, and build the relationship. So let's now move to the second topic of this masterclass in this new role, new rules, demystifying the transition from sales to sales leadership are the critical shifts that you need to make. And at Rise Up Consulting, we typically teach leadership development around 3 different buckets: your mindset, behaviors, and skill sets. We did this in a similar way. Well, I did this in a similar way when I wrote my book, Beyond the Board, back in 2020. And in that book, I shared a philosophy that a former mentor of mine, Peter Ferre, had shared with me. And he said, Rebecca, listen, if you don't like where you are in any part of your life, it could be relationships, it could be your health, it could be your work. You look to your mindset, behaviors, and skill sets to find the culprit. And usually it's a habit that you get away from, or your mindset is full of more negative thoughts than positive ones, or just not doing the work that's required, right? Maybe some skill sets got soft and you got to work on those. And so knowing this before you actually officially start in a sales leadership role, or if you're already in a sales leadership role, to go back to the basics on this, it sets you up for success in your entire career. When you create the right habits from the start, you avoid the costly mistakes that new sales leaders often make that set them up to fail. When your mindset's right, you create those crucial wins early and often. And when you have the right skill sets that you need to master to become a sales leader, you can begin to work on them and then continue to build on them the rest of your career. Let's start with mindset. We discuss several mindset shifts that need to occur. Some like the mindset of continual learning. Instead of assuming that you know everything you need to know because you got the sales leadership role. The mindset to master that learning curve, the identity shift that you'll need to make, and the personal victories you have moving to team victories. Those are all different. Now, this list is not all inclusive, but they are the biggest mindset shifts for sales. So let's spend some time talking about the identity shift that needs to happen for today's masterclass. It's going to feel strange when you don't have as much time to sell, when you don't see your name on top of the leaderboard all the time. There are a lot of companies that expect their new producing sales leaders to stay in the top 25% of the sales leaderboard as they take on a team. You can't do two jobs at once, though, really, really well. Some of you can. I don't mean to lay that blanket. You absolutely can. It's not sustainable for most people. And this is what's different about the sales jump from individual contributor to leader versus a lot of other leadership leaps, is that it's it's a real big punch on the ego, right? If you're used to getting the recognition and then you're not, it's just, and I don't mean to say this as a like it seems like, oh, really, that's so superficial. It's not. It really blindsides a lot of new leaders. I had a phenomenal leader, Amanda Arndt, join me on one of my lessons from the Leaderboard to Leadership episodes. She is now the Vice President of Training and Development at Globe Life Family Heritage Division. And I have a lot of Amanda stories in this book. But she had shared that it was just a really hard thing to go from, she knew she wanted to build a team in the long run, but she wasn't necessarily feeling the wins right away from growing her team as she did when she was a salesperson. And she said she had to let go of that. And then, of course, she found massive success. But your confidence might take a hit, and that the identity shift needs to happen. Okay. So thinking through what that means for you, thinking through your mindset on this. Are you going to identify as a salesperson? Because if you identify there, that's where you focus, that's where you spend your time. Or are you going to identify as a sales leader? What does that look like? So that's the mindset. Let's talk about the habits and the behaviors. A lot of new sales leaders don't stop to think about which habits and behaviors they're going to keep as they move into leadership and which one they're going to leave back in sales. Top performers tend to just add more to their plate, thinking that they're going to be able to get it all done and get it done well. We know this isn't true. So we help our clients through a little analysis. And in Leaderboard to Leadership, in the book, we talk about some critical behavioral shifts, going from accomplishing work on your own to accomplishing with others, understanding the different approaches that can be taken to get the sale. And then the change in the IPAs. So let's dig in the last one, the IPAs. Income producing activities are what you have in sales. If not defined as a sales leader, you're going to keep doing them. At Rise Up Consulting, we actually changed the I in IPAs from income producing activities to impactful producing activities. Behaviors like coaching conversations, goal setting meetings, ride alongs, how much time you're spending training your new team, those types of things. It's really important. We have a list in the book of these are income producing activities that bring you results in sales. These are the impact producing activities. Oh my gosh, look at this. Lives, right? The impact producing activities as a sales leader that will move the needle for everyone else. It's very helpful to be thinking that through because that's where you spend your time. The last one of this, so the different shifts that need to happen are skill set shifts. And this is such an ignored topic. The assumption, the status quo, is that the skills you have in sales, what you know about sales, will be enough to make you a great sales leader. And we want to shorten the learning curve through this transition from doer to leader and talk through some of the most common skill sets. Some skills you should absolutely bring with you from sales. Others will need to be modified. Some of the shifts in skills that we talk about in the book are technical skills get you promoted, but people skills let you keep your job as a leader. The relationship skills will change. It's different relationship building with people that you sell to versus people you work with. Sales pipeline building skills to recruiting pipeline building skills. You go from closing customers to closing executives. And then the last one is the tactical skills to strategic skills. So let's on this masterclass talk about that last one. Tactics are actions taken by individuals when they're executing a strategy. Tactics are the solutions you come up with in the short term to get you through a challenging time or to implement when you see an opportunity that you must act on right away. Being tactical is more short-term thinking. It's dealing with problems, coming up with solutions. Most frontline sales leaders lead tactical lives. You may not be the VP of sales who developed the overall sales strategy for the next 1 to 3 years, but you're probably the one that has to make sure that it gets implemented. And sometimes new sales leaders never get an opportunity to get out of the tactical area. You want to think more strategically. You've got to build those strategic muscles because it helps you continue to grow and build your leadership capabilities. Strategic skills are about the big picture plan that the whole sales team follows in order to achieve the long-term vision. A great sales strategy is based on the vision and goals of the company, your department or your team's part of that vision, your customer's vision, the market, the factors your team has control over, and several other factors. And this is a very complex subject. I don't expect to cover it all here. The point we're trying to make is that you have to move from tactical to strategic if you want to be successful. I worked with a group of sales leaders at a organization. I created a customized sales leadership program for them. And one of the last parts of that program was creating their own sales strategies. And it was a challenging task because there were many unknowns in the equation, including that they didn't know quite to a T what their inventory would be. Their products were big ticket items in which inflation and interest rate increases really made it more complex. And they also had to deal with technology changes that would require them to coach and communicate more to their teams. So how'd they do? For the most part, they did really great. Some confused the strategy with tactics, though. One of them devised a plan to help customers get through some short-term interest rate concerns. And it wasn't a bad idea. It was just a tactical strategy. The executive team was really looking more for the strategic thinking from them on how to get through it. And when they could see how they naturally just went to a more tactical solution, they learned the difference between tactical and strategic. And no matter where you find yourself, you want to take some time to work on your business and not just be working in your business. When you're in your business, you're likely thinking tactically. And when you're working on your business, you're thinking more strategic and big picture. So thank you for joining today, joining this masterclass or watching the replay. We feel so passionately about empowering frontline sales leaders and have so much gratitude for our clients who entrust us to serve their leaders. If you enjoyed this class, I have an ask of you. Could you share it? Can you share this video either on LinkedIn or on YouTube with another sales leader? Can you share the book that this information comes from? Can you share the concepts with a sales enablement leader and see if having us in for a workshop or a training might make your team better? And of course, if you have any other questions about something I said in this, you can send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can check out our website where we have some free resources right now and additional areas of opportunity for you to learn about us. So thank you so much for joining and watching the replay.